Well, get these notes. Okay. Hey guys, come on in. So I'm gonna start. So just to introduce myself, my name is Nnakina Xi-Amaru. I am the CEO of Aboriginal Ministry of Justice and the founding mother of the Xi-Amaru Republic. So I hope you guys are having a good day. Happy Lover's Day. I just think it's very important to get some clarity on this identity conversation. I don't know if you guys been confused, but most people are confused. So I hope you guys get something from this. I took some notes. I want to make sure I hit my points. So give me one moment here. Okay. Reconnecting. Okay. This is reconnecting. But keep your questions till the end. I'll answer maybe 5 when I'm done. But this conversation, I think what's important to understand is human rights, understanding governments, understanding basically what's the point, you know? I think what's important for us to understand is that human rights are simply things that we have because we exist. I think people miss that part a lot, is you have rights just because you were born. Now, over time, people have created things or systems to protect people like themselves. So that is why states or governments are important when it comes to being in the world. I know a lot of people feel like systems, you know, they just don't want any type of system, or they think governments are all bad, but in reality, they're not. So we are going to get into some points here on why there's been confusion in regards to status corrections, or just why melanated people even have to go about such process, or why is it that there's never an end to the conversation of Indigenous status, right? So we have to understand that a state is like a shield. What I mean by that is that, yes, we have rights. However, a state is something, or a government is something that is created so that we are able to have a shield against the outside world when it comes to protecting ourselves or people like us. So that is why a state has to be created. You do have rights, but if you don't have your shield, you're going to get hit. Okay, you're going to get hit. But that is what has been missing, is in the conscious community, we have developed this idea of all governments are bad. So you've taken, 1, losing your identity, 2, thinking, well, maybe I should just do everything by myself and then I'm fine. But what that has created, or I don't know if you guys have experienced it yourself or know someone, but what has become a problem is people have now stepped into an arena that they're not ready for. So you have rights, but now you're out there with no shield because you discover that these things exist. So now we have to come to a place of understanding, what do we have to put in place to make this function for us. So what's important to understand is that government functions and power can only be done through its people. What makes a government come to life is people. No people, no government. Lack of involvement, lack of resources, limited power. Limited power, broken shield. Okay, so those are the things that we have to really remember when it comes to why we, or at least when it comes to us, why we do what we do. Because I know there's a extreme side that's out there who says you don't need anybody to do X, Y, and Z, which is true. If you feel comfortable that you want to go out there and just fend for yourself, that is one approach to live. However, the world we live in doesn't really cater to that. So you have to become wise on, if that is the path that you want, then we would not be a good fit for you, just so you know. Because at the end of the day, this is a system. This is an established system that continues to grow and develop so that we have a shield. If you don't want a shield, then doing a status correction with us isn't gonna work for you. Because at the end of the day, this is about protecting people. And the way we do that is through our system. So, so one of the things that I want to touch on is, well, I just want to mention, I don't think I told you guys, but we do have, because now this is off topic, but just so you know, we do have a promotion currently going on for couples. So those who are married, people who are a part of our nation, who has a spouse but hasn't started the process yet, we have a discount, a promotional code. What is the promotional code? I'm horrible at advertising. I think it's Nation Builder 24. Okay, you can use that to get 50% off if you are ready to start the citizenship process or procedure. Use that code. You have until the 16th to utilize that. And that is our gift to pretty much show our appreciation for families and the importance of unity during this season. So I hope you guys take advantage of that, because we would love to have you and your family over on this side. Now, getting into the reasons, because I think I haven't touched on that part yet. And I hope y'all ain't judging me, because I really don't be doing live, but I think I'm getting more comfortable. Now, oh, and just so you guys have clarity, so when we say government or systems, because people who are coming into our system, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of just all over the placeness that happens when it comes to this. Because the reality is, we have a challenge where we deal with people who have been through certain things. Therefore, we end up in challenges that can be prevented if we just did it the right way with preparation. So this is all about getting ourselves mentally prepared, more so than just stepping into a process. When it comes to the other jurisdiction, you have to understand that there's no indigenous switch that you're gonna go over there and turn on to become indigenous. Even when it comes to our process is not making people indigenous. Our process is providing administrative procedures for indigenous people who have been misclassified. So there's this misconception that there's a light switch or something that you guys are going to turn on and all of a sudden you have a new status. That's not how this works. Okay, there's no steps in the other system per se, because you have to think about it like this. Systems are built, and even procedures that are put in place are created by people for a certain outcome. But at the end of the day, it caters to its people. So we've been looking at this, and I do blame the conscious community. Now, that's my personal opinion, nothing to do with the nation. That's just my personal opinion. But I do believe that the wildfire that we see on social media, specifically concerning status and nationality, is this misconception that you have to be completely separated to live a peaceful life. Maybe back in the day that would have been great, but because of where we're at today, we have to be realistic on what it is that our people need and how is it for them to best function in society. If we don't consider those things, then we leave our people vulnerable. So even when it comes to process, governments, organizations, and institutions have to cater to understand how do they protect people's rights. Because even when someone comes into our nation, they're putting us in a position to implement procedures and protocols on their behalf. They're entrusting us with the authority to operate on that capacity or in that capacity for them and their families. So that's not something you can take lightly. Now, the problem with these missing pieces that I'm talking about is people are trying to skip a step. They've been miseducated on nationality or status correction as simply just getting a piece of paper and then you're free and nobody can tell you anything, which is not the case. Okay, any system, at least when we're talking about being protected, the problem that we face is that we've been adopted into other people's system. That's it. Okay, and because of that, we don't really reap much. We have privileges, we have benefits and things of that. However, it's not built to cater specifically to us, and it shouldn't. I think we have to get to a place to understand that you get what you put into things. That's it, right? So let me go ahead and touch on ready for that. So I'm gonna start with pretty much the missing piece, and I would say step one. There's no order to this, but I'm just gonna start with one. One of the missing piece when we have this conversation about status or identity when it comes to melanated people is pretty much in the work that we don't want to do. We have been put in a mindset of expecting a harvest without putting seeds in the ground. What I mean by that is a lot of times, even when it comes to where we're at, we are 1 year, going into 2 years now of operations. So I've been saying this a lot, but it's true. One of the things that we have to understand is even when it comes to our system, we are a growing system, meaning we are 1 year in. So you can't take a newborn baby and just put it in a car and expect it to drive. So now what we have is a position where we have to now as a people come in and pour into. So the reason why you end up in the space with the missing pieces is because you are expecting things that have not been planted by us, by our aunts, by anybody at this point. There's little pieces in society, but at the end of the day, what we are truly desiring, it doesn't exist yet. But you have to have a starting point. So even when it comes to what we're doing is we're not here selling dreams. The problem when you face missing pieces with the other places you may be getting information from is they don't want accountability. They don't want the responsibility to do this work. So they put you out there into the world telling you this is all you have to do. But when push comes to shove, there's nothing there. And that is why it's so dangerous, especially the internet, is because a lot of people think because something is viewed a lot that it means it's right. But what that does is it really simply creates a big problem. Even when it comes to the work we do, we're very limited at this moment to even seek because there's so much damage that has been done in our community. We have to leverage our resources in a way that's most effective. So therefore, even when it comes to, let's say, just having communication about certain topics, we don't cater to that because the people who do come to us, we have to direct our resources in that direction. So again, one of the missing pieces, you're not going to see if anyone is trying to tell you they have arrived, especially when it comes to this conversation, you should run, because the work has not been done. Okay? The reason we're even in this position is because we understand that, okay, the work hasn't been done, so we have to do it. And the people who we hope are coming to us understand that, and understand that this is, if you're in a place where you want the arrive scene and the arrive experience, then keep in mind that you're going to be living in someone else's dream. Our goal is for our people to have our own dream, right? Our goal is for our people to have our own establishment. So when people come into our nation, we're hoping that they're coming with the expectation of bringing their skills, their experiences, their things that they have gained from the outside world to build a nation that we all want. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Freedom is power to excel in areas that you may have been restricted before. So having an Indigenous jurisdiction is simply giving us the foundation as a people to move into spaces with not so many restrictions. Okay? So, but that takes work. And keep in mind that just because you can do something, like even when it comes to understanding where we're at as a nation, just because you can do something doesn't mean you do it. You should do it. You understand? So as a nation, we have to evaluate where we're at, what's worth implementing right now, what's not worth implementing right now. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, then you put your people at risk. Ask yourself when you're coming across certain information about status correction or nationality, whatever they call it out there, you have to ask yourself, is this information I'm receiving from a source that I will be able to reference and come back to? If you cannot, you're probably in danger. So I always tell people, take what you hear on the internet as a grain of salt, because it's very dangerous. I'm telling you, because many people come to us because they heard certain things and they pursued certain things without the shield. And now we are trying to put the shield in front after they've jumped out front. So now we have to kind of work backwards. So take your time, even when it comes to this type of information, take your time. If anything feels like you have to do it today, you probably shouldn't do it. This is serious business, but it's not that serious. And what I mean by that is, it's best to go slow. It's best to ask your questions, and feel free to ask questions. If people do not feel comfortable to answer your questions, or you feel like you're not getting the response when it comes to clarity, you should probably take that as, I probably shouldn't do anything over here. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so again, like I said, that one is work has to be done. And at this point, we have to accept that no one's coming to do this work for us. As a people, we have to come in and do this work. So that's what this is all about. And then the other missing piece is you have to accept that the world is divided into two. One side is those who want it. The other side is those who want it more. Okay? So that means whoever is willing to pay the cost to get the reward will get the reward. But what's important to understand, even when it comes to those who want it more, they don't even set the price. The universe sets the price on what that looks like. So if you're coming even to us with the mentality of thinking that, oh, well, I paid a fee, well, that should just do it all, you don't understand this game. You don't understand this system. You don't understand this world, because at the end of the day, it's not a monetary cost that you pay. It's sacrifices, it's experiences, it's money. It is money, but that's just one part of the piece. So if you are in the mindset where you think, I'm just gonna, like, I can buy freedom, you're not ready to have freedom. And I'm just being honest, okay? Because it's more than that. But so the reason that's a missing piece is, this is more so missing piece up here. That's what I'm really talking about. I'm not talking about missing piece of information. I'm not talking about missing piece. It's more so missing piece of what it takes. So that's why I'm laying these out today for you guys, just to make sure we're clear. So I think what's important, though, is for us to really ask ourselves the truth. Am I up for the challenge? And I think the world has convinced everybody that they have to be certain things. But the reality is you don't. You can choose. Don't make certain things just because they're hot topics influence your life. Because once you step out in something, you have to walk in that. Okay, everybody tries to sell you this. Oh, you just do this beautiful thing. It's so easy. There's work. It's work. A lot of what we are facing, many people have never faced in their proper status, because we haven't operated on this level before. So coming into our nation is not peaches, okay? Anyone selling you this as bad, I would be scared for you, because they're setting you up for struggles that you are not mentally equipped for. So the reality is, you have to ask yourself be honest with yourself. Okay, am I made for this? Is this really my call? Because the reality is, in the other system, it's not that bad. I know people try to make it sound like, you need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. I see some questions, but I'm going to answer some questions at the end. But drop them in the comment. I'll look for them after. But what I mean is that the world is the world. If you think you're going to escape this, however you think escaping this is, we're not that. I just really want people to have a clear understanding of our nation. Our nation is about power. It's not about simply just paperwork and our people just having some paperwork and going about. Our nation is about advocating, utilizing power, utilizing our rights to execute and utilize power to protect our people. So things have to be put in place. So we don't believe in just pushing you out there. Now, the paperwork is one step of the process, but if you find yourself in a place where you think there's no challenges, even once you go through this process, you're not mentally ready to be a part of our nation. And I'm not saying anything to try to scare anybody. We want y'all. The more the merrier. We want our people to come to us, but we want our people to come to us with a realistic expectation. And the problem with what we have experienced and what we see is that the conscious community has programmed our people to believe that freedom is something you're entitled to, not something you work towards or, like it's just handed to you. No, even when it comes to what we're doing, this is something that we have to take, right? I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. No, it makes sense. But getting into the final reason on the missing piece is you. You are the hope for the future. The reality is we've been programmed to believe that all the answers are outside of us. We've been programmed to believe that we need to go somewhere else and get another confirmation and another confirmation and another confirmation. You bring life to the system. So if you're going to keep thinking, like, no other system does that. Our people have had this misconception of rights and regulations, because even when you talk about authenticating certain things, I'm not even going to say the word. When you talk about authenticating, you're basically saying I need to seek permission over something that is mine that I didn't create. No. So even when we talk about our process and our procedures within our nation, there's no outside step of our process, okay? Our process is designed for us. And our process means once you go through our process, you carry yourself according to our process and procedures, and you introduce the world and you put the world on notice. This is how I move according to my Indigenous nation. That's it. You start to now educate the world on how to interact with you because they've been misinformed. But there's no outside process. So once you go through our process, now again, there's other things that we do have to implement. There's other things that we do need to put in place as we continue to develop our nation. But there's no outside process. Now, let me correct that, because we were operating off of an old system, which we have worked to, I would say, bring up to date to our time now. So those who are a part of our nation, keep in mind that you guys are going to be notified very soon on getting your documentation updated, because we have done the transition completely now from our previous nation. So therefore, you guys do need to get your documents updated. Feel free to reach out if you are watching this, but we will also provide you with notice and information on that very soon. Now, that being said, the reason there's so many missing pieces when it comes to this conversation of status correction is because no one's operating or looking to operate truly as independent nations. Everybody just wants the idea of it. So even when you hear somebody trying to give you some form of something they heard, you're running into someone who has no authority. That's one. You guys are listening to just anybody. So hey, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I really want you guys to like really start checking yourself on like who you listen to, because you guys just listen to anybody at some point, and it's like that's how we end up in many things. We have to become more discerning, okay? Because the reality is, even if some people look like you, they're not you. Some people are literally sent to put you in trouble. So if you are not discerning, you're going to end up in situations where you could avoid if you just take some time to listen. Okay, I'm going to go into some questions. Great question. So the question is, what is the difference between us and the Moorish nation? Thank you for that question. That's a great one. The difference is I like to put it this way. The Xi-Amaru Republic is the evolution to what you have encountered. We're not here to knock any information that came before us. We're not here to knock any process that came before us. However, I think it's very important to understand that things have to evolve, because the reality is our people keep trying to operate on a, our people keep trying to bring the past to life. The past is dead, at least the past that our people want to pursue. And that's why we have such a hard time with change, is because, yes, what we have experienced happened to us, but we're not here to become our ancestors. We are the change. We are the evolution of our ancestors. So even when it comes to what it is to be Indigenous, doesn't mean you have to go back in time to be Indigenous. We are Indigenous, and we carry ourselves how we carry ourselves. And the reality is we have grown past certain things. So even when it comes to our cultures, we have culture within the Americas. We have a lot of different cultures. The only issue with our cultures is that they haven't been placed under systems that are ran by us. But even when it comes to who we are, how we dress, what we do, is what we do. That is the evolution that we have to now kind of reprogram ourselves, because again, you're going off of criterias from another people telling you, well, what it takes for you to be certain things. And that is incorrect. We have evolved. So when it comes to Moorish information and all that information, yes, it was useful at some point in time. But now as we grew and as we grow, we understand, okay, this part is absolutely, like, it's not useful anymore. So we work towards not just representing ourselves as Indigenous in history, but even as the future, what it means for us as a people. So you kind of have to come into a mindset of what does it truly mean to be free? And free really means to grow. We're free to grow. We don't have to become the old to be who we are. And I think the biggest problem with what we see now on social media specifically is everybody's trying to go back in time. That's wasting time. If you ask me, that's wasting time. You know, we work towards understanding our history, understanding where we come from, making sure that we are, you know, doing what is required. However, even when it comes to what we have experienced, our experience is unique to many other people. So therefore, our system has to be unique to us. No one else knows our experiences within the Americas but us. So how can we ask another system to give us rules, regulations, and criteria to meet when they don't know us? So the Xi-Amaru Republic is about us having a system dedicated towards us. It's dedicated towards who we are, what we know about ourselves. Okay, so that's why having Indigenous systems that cater to us, having Indigenous institutions that cater to us, is because no one knows us better than us. We keep trying to operate in other systems that aren't for us. That's the problem. So we have to now understand that nobody else has the answer but us. That's it. We now have to move into the world and show them what it is that how to interact with us as Indigenous people. That is what this is about. Now, let me see. I got some questions, but let me go back, because I'm pretty much done with time. But someone say you can't wait to speak with us. We look forward to it. Make sure to reach out. The best way to reach us is by setting up an appointment. You can also email us, but we have been, to be honest, the best way is to go on the website, Aboriginal Ministry of Justice.org, and set up an appointment to get in touch with us. Okay. I appreciate you too. Thank you for joining us. Okay, someone asked a very important question. Okay, so someone asked a question about traveling. This is very important. So what's important to understand is that our jurisdiction does not... Okay, let me see. Our jurisdiction is not to take away from our people. It is a system that has been created to give our people the room. I like to say the best of both worlds. Okay, what I mean by that is that we still utilize the other system. So even becoming a part of our nation, you're not simply just being removed. You are shifting how you're taking that system out of the default setting. What I mean by that is, if you are melanated, right now you are classified as a 14th Amendment status. That means that you are restricted from operating specifically how we operate, which is in self-governance. Like, for us to be able to lawfully do what we do, we have to be in our Indigenous status. You cannot create a Black government. There's no such thing on these lands. You either have the federal government or Indigenous governments. That's it. Anything else doesn't fly. Now, people may want to argue with that. That's fine too. You can argue with it as much as you want. It's not going to change anything. So understanding those rules, we understand that we have had to create an Indigenous system for ourselves. Therefore, now what that does is it puts us in a position for our people who have status within the United States as citizens. They still have that status. However, they have the status now as a citizen through what is known as the Indian Citizenship Act, also known as the Snyder Act. The Snyder Act is basically when Indigenous people receive the lawful standing to have citizenship within the other jurisdiction. Why is that important? Well, because if you have citizenship through that status as a Indigenous person, now that means you don't have, it's reconnecting, but it says so basically you do not have the restrictions of the 14th Amendment status, which prevents you from operating in self-governance, because the Indian Citizenship Act basically lets it be known that, hey, you're not restricted. Literally, it says you're not restricted by the 14th Amendment status. What that means is you can have your own system and still be a part and operate in the other jurisdiction. However, now they're no longer your default. That's it. That's why, so when it comes to traveling, our people still utilize the other system because we don't have no military, sir. So we want to make sure that whenever our people are moving about, that they have protection and covering. We have to be strategic. So just because we can say, oh, let's pursue getting a passport for our people, doesn't mean we should. That's like something I was saying earlier. Just because you can do some certain things doesn't mean you should do certain things. So that is why governments are so important, is because you have people who have to think on protecting you. And you put that responsibility on your nation. So when we talk about states and governments, that's really what we're talking about, is we're talking about having a system. Now, the problem, like I said, is that we've been in systems, we've been in systems that simply weren't designed to cater to us. That's it. Governments aren't bad. It's just that, well, they can become bad. Okay. I'm not saying that there's not some corrupt governments, but what I'm saying is the initial initiative of a government is supposed to be to protect. But again, the people so you have to remember, so even, let's just put it this way, this nation is designed for melanated people. Now, melanated people who choose to be a part of our nation or not, it still affects them. Whether they decide to join us 10 years from now or they decide to join us tomorrow. The difference between if you join us 10 years from now is the rules that apply 10 years from now, you could have influenced if you were a part today. So that's how systems work. You want power, you have to be involved. You have to, so whenever you have to be involved in whatever you're going to be in. So those people who are saying, I'll wait till when this happens, you now put yourself in a position for your grandkids to, whoever's here are making the rules. So you now put yourself 10, 20, 30 years later when you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to finally join. When decisions were being made that you probably didn't agree with could have been changed or corrected if you were involved. So you have to understand that this is a beautiful position for us to be in right now. It's still a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But it's literally a opportunity for us to build something great. So for those who are interested, I'm like, you guys, I think you have to understand, you have to come into this thinking as a free person. Okay, what does that mean? Mean that you now are in a system where creativity is needed. Experiences are influential in decision making in the near future when it comes to as we continue to grow. So if you want a voice, this is where your voice needs to be. Because now that we are growing the system, you now have an opportunity to make an impact on generations to come. Which is something, like I said, if you want the arrived experience, I would recommend you wait. But if you want to be someone who influence history, then this is the nation for you. Now, that pretty much sums up what I was going to say, but let me see if there's another question. But long story short, you still utilize the other jurisdiction that you're in when it comes to traveling, because we don't have the capacity to do anything at this point in time if something happens to you overseas. So all those people who are trying to convince you that you need your own passport, you need your own stuff, they're putting you in a position to not have any covering and protection. And then guess what? After you pay them, they're not answering the phone if something happens to you. So I think you need to kind of become more wise and strategic on what's the best route, not just to do certain things, but what is the best route to do things that protect me and my family. Think from that level, okay? So as a nation, now whenever you are applying, you can utilize your paperwork and stuff such as that when it comes to applying for a passport. But other than that, that's really how that works. I see someone here says, that is correct. Black has no standing. Exactly. And I'm going to just throw this in there. You know, a lot of people say that Obama didn't do anything for the people. And I'm not here to say yes or no. Okay, I'm not here to say yes or no. But what I'm here to say is that for those who are in on this landmass, he is the reason why we lawfully have the ability now to do what we do. Because at first, the United States was not in agreement with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. It wasn't until he got in office that changed. And now, that's how we can do what we do. So, that's a little Black History Month for y'all, but really Indigenous history. So I'm going to answer this last question. So does other government acknowledge our sovereignty? Great question. So one of the things that I think is very important for us to understand about acknowledgement and recognition. No one can acknowledge you without you operating. So that's the first thing. So even when we talk about recognition, acknowledgement, if people can't see you, they don't know how to treat you. So before people can per se recognize you, you have to be in operation. We have recognition because when we operate. So yes, so recognition for us is people who are willing to go into business with us, jurisdiction that are willing to go into business with our people. That's what gives us recognition. This idea of this official seal and stamp that magically gives people permission to exercise their rights, that's not how the world works. So when it comes to recognition and acknowledgement, we do have that because our people exist. People, like I said, if you don't remember anything else, people bring nations to life. We have people in our nation. So therefore, our nation is definitely an indigenous nation that operates. Our people are the people that make our nation legit. The United States people is what makes the United States legit. Now, people can say, oh, it's a corporation, it's this, it's that. We're not here to talk about all that. But at the end of the day, for those of you who are interested to join us on this journey, there's 2 steps. You got to do your screening. That's step 1. And then 2, you got to submit, well, it's called the tribal enrollment process, but it has been renamed to citizenship procedure of the Xi-Amaru Republic. So those are your 2 steps. Once you're done with that, that's it. Then we're here to support you. We're here to cover you. We're here to make sure that when you exercise your rights as an Indigenous person, that you have a backing. That's what this is about. Because the reality is, like I said, if you have no government and you're out there saying you're Indigenous, people are going to look at you crazy because there's no such thing as it. The United States doesn't have those process and procedures in place for you. So when you say, I am this, but you have no backing, then you're just talking to the wind. So if you want to exercise your rights, you can come on over here. But anyways, guys, I truly appreciate y'all tuning in and joining me for this live. I'm normally shy, but you guys made it a lot easier. I think I'm getting better. Y'all let me know, those who are in the nation, whenever y'all talk to me, feel free to let me know. Give me my points. But you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye for now. Oh, happy Valentine's Day.